Mommy, why do we own this house? Liam's innocent question pierced the quiet morning like a sudden spark, and Sarah froze mid-step in the kitchen, holding a steaming cup of coffee while the anniversary candles flickered softly on the counter. It was the day she had been looking forward to for months, the 10th anniversary of her marriage to Mark, yet here was her son asking a question that she had not anticipated, stirring a mixture of pride, nostalgia, and a pinch of unease in her chest. Liam, with his tousled blonde hair and bright green eyes, stood on tiptoe, peering over the edge of the kitchen island, his small hands gripping a folded piece of paper he had discovered the night before, the paper that carried the weight of family history without him even realizing it. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice as she knelt to meet him at eye level, feeling the smooth morning sunlight warm the hardwood floors around them. "Well, Liam," she began carefully, her words measured yet gentle, "this house is special because it has been in our family for a long time and every corner tells a story about us." Liam's eyebrows knit together in curiosity as he tilted his head, his mind clearly racing to connect the dots between his own experiences in the home and the mysteries hinted at by that paper. Sarah watched his expression, her heart swelling with the tender love she felt for her little boy who was growing up faster than she sometimes realized, and she knew that the day ahead would be filled with questions, explanations, and perhaps a few surprises that would bond them even closer as a family. The aroma of freshly baked cinnamon rolls mingled with the scent of pine from the small tabletop Christmas tree Mark had set up a week earlier, adding a layer of warmth and familiarity that seemed to soften the edges of any worry Sarah might have carried. Liam reached out to touch the tree, spinning a tiny ornament between his fingers, and Sarah took the moment to observe his delight, remembering her own childhood Christmas mornings when curiosity and wonder had filled every corner of her world. "We bought it together as a family," she continued, hoping to plant seeds of understanding while keeping the explanation age-appropriate, "and every room has a memory of laughter, love, and even the occasional messes that make life fun." Liam's eyes widened, and he leaned closer, as if trying to absorb the full meaning of her words, sensing that this house was not just a collection of walls and windows but a vessel of shared experiences that included him in every nook and cranny. Sarah's voice softened further, "And one day, you will see that the stories inside these walls are just as important as the ones we make outside of them." Liam nodded slowly, the questions temporarily paused as he processed the significance of the conversation, and for a brief moment, the three of them, the mother, the father quietly entering the kitchen with a knowing smile, and the son, shared a peaceful, unspoken acknowledgement of the ties that bound them, the kind of connection that formed the foundation of a home more enduring than bricks or paint. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the countertops, the wooden floor, and the family gathered there, creating a serene backdrop for the unfolding narrative of trust, curiosity, and the gentle unveiling of family history, all sparked by a simple, yet profound question from a child's heart. After their brief conversation in the kitchen, Sarah guided Liam to the living room where the morning sunlight poured through the large bay windows, illuminating the soft beige carpet and the cozy sofa where Mark was already reading the newspaper, occasionally glancing up with a smile that acknowledged the subtle tension in the air. Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, unfolding the piece of paper he had found, examining it with the careful seriousness only a 9-year-old could muster, while Sarah settled beside him, her hand lightly resting on his shoulder to offer reassurance and presence without interrupting his natural curiosity. "Mom, why does it have all these old stamps and signatures?" Liam asked, pointing at the faded markings on the top corner of the house title, his green eyes wide with fascination. Sarah took a moment to consider her words, understanding that every explanation she gave now would shape not only his understanding of the house but also his perception of family history and responsibility. "These marks," she began, "represent the people who helped make this house ours, the families and the paperwork that ensured our home was secure for us, for you, and for the memories we will continue to create." Liam tilted his head, absorbing the information while occasionally glancing at the framed family photographs lining the mantel, each image capturing moments of laughter, birthdays, and small celebrations that anchored the present to the past. Mark folded the newspaper and joined them on the floor, crouching behind Liam to offer his own perspective. "This house," he said warmly, "is more than just walls and a roof. every room, every corner, every scratch on the hardwood floor has a story. It is where we learn to celebrate, to forgive, to play, and to care for one another. Liam ran his fingers over the textured surface of the paper, tracing the faded signatures as though trying to feel the weight of history beneath his touch, while Sarah noticed the subtle way his eyes reflected curiosity mixed with a budding sense of pride. "Do you remember last week when we baked cookies and some fell on the floor?" Sarah asked gently, smiling at the memory. Liam nodded enthusiastically, "Yes. And I helped clean up even though it was sticky." Sarah laughed softly, "Exactly. Every small moment like that adds to our story here, just like these signatures add to the history of the house." Liam looked up at both his parents, a thoughtful expression crossing his face, the kind of serious contemplation that comes when a child begins to understand the connection between past and present, ownership and belonging, love and legacy. The three of them spent the next half hour exploring the living room together, Liam asking questions about the pictures, the ornaments, the small details he had never noticed, while Sarah and Mark offered gentle explanations, anecdotes from their early years of marriage, and playful remarks that made the atmosphere light and engaging despite the serious nature of the topic. The sunlight continued to shift across the room, casting soft shadows on the walls, and Liam's questions gradually transformed from mere curiosity to an emerging appreciation for the home itself, the place where every laughter, every story, and every quiet moment was stored. Sarah observed this transformation, feeling a mixture of relief and joy, knowing that today was not just an ordinary anniversary, but the beginning of a deeper conversation about family, responsibility, and the value of shared experiences that would linger in Liam's memory for years to come, quietly shaping his understanding of love, security, and the intangible treasures that made a house a home. As the morning progressed, Sarah led Liam and Mark into the study, a room filled with tall bookshelves, stacks of family albums, and a sturdy oak desk that had been in the house since the couple first moved in together. Liam placed the house title carefully on the desk, his small hands trembling slightly with excitement as he examined the detailed documents, the official stamps, and the signatures that connected generations. Sarah knelt beside him once more, pointing to the oldest signature, explaining how each person had contributed to securing the home, their efforts woven into the story of the family in ways Liam was only beginning to grasp. Mark leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed yet relaxed, observing the interaction with a quiet pride, occasionally chiming in with anecdotes about the house, from the time they painted the nursery a soft lavender to the first snow they experienced together in the backyard. Liam's curiosity grew with each explanation, his eyes lighting up as he imagined the lives of those who had come before him, the challenges they had overcome, and the joy they had shared within the very walls he now called home. "So, every person who signed this paper helped make this our family's place?" Liam asked, voice tinged with awe. Sarah nodded, smiling gently, "Yes, Liam, and that is why it is so important to care for it, to respect it, and to make our own memories here that will be part of its story for the future." Liam traced his fingers along the faded ink, trying to imagine the hands that had held the pen before him, and Sarah noticed the mix of wonder and responsibility forming in his young mind, understanding that this moment was laying the foundation for his sense of belonging and heritage. Mark suggested they explore some of the older family albums, flipping through yellowed pages and black and white photographs of the home in earlier decades, the garden in full bloom, family pets, and celebrations that captured laughter and connection across generations. Liam gasped softly at each image. "Did you really live here when you were my age?" he asked, pointing at a picture of Sarah sitting on the floor with a baby blanket, a tiny kitten curled beside her. Sarah chuckled, "Yes, and just like you, I learned to love this house and every corner of it." The three of them spent the better part of the morning weaving stories from the documents and photos into the present, creating a bridge between past and now that Liam could understand, a living history lesson filled with warmth, love, and shared experiences. The sunlight shifted again through the windows, highlighting the rich tones of the hardwood floors and the spines of the books that lined the walls, creating a sense of continuity and permanence. Liam's questions evolved from simple curiosity about the signatures to reflections on the lives that had been lived in the house, the care required to maintain it, and the joy found in creating family traditions. Sarah and Mark encouraged these thoughts, gently guiding him through ideas of stewardship, respect, and the importance of cherishing both tangible and intangible heritage. By the time the clock struck late morning, Liam seemed to grasp the connection between the documents, the photographs, and the lived experiences they represented, his expression a mixture of fascination and understanding. Sarah felt a sense of relief, pride, and deep emotional satisfaction, recognizing that this day, meant to celebrate an anniversary, had become a shared journey of family history, connection, and the subtle passing of knowledge and values from one generation to the next, embedding lessons of love, responsibility, and belonging that Liam would carry with him for years to come. After spending the morning exploring the family albums and discussing the house title, Sarah suggested they take a break and move into the sunlit kitchen, the warm light streaming through the large windows illuminating the rustic wooden table and polished countertops. Liam eagerly followed, carrying a few of the photographs in his small hands, and Mark walked behind them with a pot of hot chocolate in his hands, the rich aroma filling the air. Sarah placed the photographs on the table, encouraging Liam to arrange them in chronological order, guiding him gently to notice changes in the house, the garden, and the family members over time. "Look here, Liam," Sarah said, pointing at a picture of their first Christmas in the home. "This was the year we decorated the tree together, just like we do every year now." Liam's eyes widened with excitement as he imagined the twinkling lights and the laughter that must have filled the room back then. Mark poured the hot chocolate into 3 mugs, careful not to spill, and handed one to Liam, who held it carefully, his small hands wrapped around the warm ceramic. As they sipped, Mark shared stories about little mishaps during past holiday seasons, from dropping ornaments to finding stray wrapping paper under the couch days later, and Liam laughed, absorbing the humor and warmth in each tale. Sarah encouraged him to ask questions about the house, the family, and their traditions, and he eagerly peppered them with inquiries about who painted which room, how long it took to plant the garden, and what each signature on the house title represented. "Every person who signed this paper contributed in their own way, just like we all do every day," Sarah explained, her voice gentle yet firm, emphasizing the connection between effort and care in maintaining the home. Liam nodded thoughtfully, the concept slowly sinking in, realizing that the home was more than walls and furniture. It was a living record of love, dedication, and shared experiences. Mark added to the conversation, describing the effort it took to keep the house running smoothly, from fixing leaks to planting new flowers in the yard, highlighting how teamwork and attention to detail had always been a part of their family life. Liam's curiosity evolved into reflection as he imagined himself growing up in the same spaces, learning to contribute and care, and becoming part of the ongoing story of the home. Sarah guided him in connecting the photographs, the documents, and the real-life experiences they represented, illustrating how each generation built upon the work of the previous ones, creating a layered history filled with lessons, memories, and love. The morning turned into early afternoon, and the 3 of them sat together, surrounded by images, documents, and the comfort of the kitchen, feeling the gentle rhythm of family life and the quiet pride in the home they had nurtured together. Liam's laughter, the warmth of the hot chocolate, and the sunlight streaming through the windows created a vivid, sensory experience that tied the past to the present, helping him understand that family, home, and memories were inseparably intertwined. By the time they cleared the table, Liam had a newfound respect for the effort, love, and history embedded in every corner of the house, a sense of responsibility mingled with joy and belonging that would stay with him as he continued to grow and explore his role within the family. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the living room, Sarah suggested they take a walk outside to enjoy the crisp winter air, the sound of leaves crunching underfoot adding a gentle rhythm to their conversation. Liam eagerly took her hand, his small fingers curling around hers with trust and curiosity, while Mark followed close behind, carrying a small satchel with documents and a notebook in case questions arose during their exploration. They approached the front yard, where the old oak tree stood tall and proud, its branches bare but strong, a silent witness to years of family history, and Liam immediately ran toward it, imagining the countless games and adventures that had taken place beneath its sprawling canopy. Sarah called him back gently, smiling as she explained the significance of the tree, how it had been planted by his grandparents when they first moved into the house, and how each branch and root symbolized the growth, challenges, and care invested by everyone in the family over generations. Liam listened intently, occasionally looking up in awe at the intricate patterns of the bark and the way the light filtered through the branches, casting dancing shadows on the ground. Mark joined in, recounting stories of family gatherings, holiday picnics, and quiet afternoons spent reading under the shade of the tree, his voice carrying a sense of warmth and pride that resonated with both Sarah and Liam. As they walked toward the garden, Sarah pointed out the various plants, explaining the care and attention required to maintain them, and how each bloom represented a memory or a lesson, tying the tangible elements of the garden to the intangible experiences of family life. Liam asked questions about how to plant seeds, nurture them, and watch them grow, and Sarah patiently demonstrated the proper way to dig, water, and cover, emphasizing patience, responsibility, and observation as keys to success. Mark contributed by showing Liam old photographs of the garden over the years, pointing out the transformations and improvements, and highlighting how consistency and dedication had shaped the beauty they now enjoyed. Liam's imagination sparked as he envisioned himself contributing to the garden in the coming years, planting flowers, harvesting vegetables, and taking pride in the results of his own efforts, connecting the lessons of care and attention directly to the ongoing story of the household. The three of them wandered through the garden paths, discussing plans for future projects, including repainting the fence, adding new flower beds, and installing a bird feeder to attract local wildlife, each suggestion sparking laughter, curiosity, and a sense of joint accomplishment. By the time they returned indoors, Liam had a deeper appreciation for the layers of effort, love, and attention that had shaped the home and garden, a realization that every action, no matter how small, contributed to the well-being and continuity of the family's story. Sarah and Mark exchanged a satisfied glance, seeing the spark of understanding and connection in Liam's eyes, knowing that the lessons of responsibility, care, and pride in their shared environment had taken root, and that he would carry these values forward in his own way as he grew, ensuring the family's history remained alive through action, memory, and continued devotion to the home they all cherished. Mark carefully laid out the papers on the dining table, the sunlight streaming through the window illuminating the neat handwriting and official stamps, and Liam perched on a chair beside him, wide-eyed and curious, asking questions about the house title with an innocence that reminded Mark of the importance of clarity and honesty in family matters. Sarah stood nearby, holding a cup of tea, her expression a mixture of concern and patience, knowing that the discussion they were about to have required both transparency and sensitivity to maintain trust and understanding within the family. Mark began explaining in simple terms what a house title represented, how ownership was legally recognized, and the responsibilities it entailed, while carefully avoiding complex jargon, ensuring Liam could grasp the basic concepts through stories and analogies that connected to his everyday experiences. Liam asked thoughtful questions about who made decisions about the house, how repairs were handled, and what it meant to inherit responsibility, and Mark used these questions as opportunities to teach lessons about accountability, respect, and the value of long-term planning. Sarah chimed in with examples of how the house had been cared for over the years, highlighting instances when the family worked together to renovate, clean, and improve their living space, tying these anecdotes back to the significance of the title and the broader idea of stewardship over one's environment. The conversation moved naturally from technical explanations to personal stories, and Liam responded with expressions of wonder and determination, wanting to understand not just the legal implications, but the emotional and practical responsibilities that came with living in and caring for a home. Mark encouraged him to think about how small, daily actions, like keeping rooms tidy, watering plants, and respecting shared spaces, contributed to the family's overall sense of security and comfort, subtly linking these habits to larger lessons about life, responsibility, and teamwork. Sarah and Mark exchanged glances, both recognizing the teachable moment, and they continued the discussion, gradually including examples from extended family history, showing how previous generations had approached challenges, made decisions, and upheld values that kept the household strong and cohesive. Liam listened intently, occasionally interrupting with questions or observations, his tone a mix of curiosity and earnestness, demonstrating that he was internalizing not just the information, but the values and priorities the family held dear. As the afternoon progressed, the room felt warmer, not just from the sunlight, but from the shared engagement, laughter, and the feeling of connection that arose when complex topics were broken down with care, understanding, and mutual respect. By the end of the conversation, Liam had a clearer grasp of what a house title meant and why it mattered, and he seemed inspired to contribute positively to the household in tangible ways, whether through small tasks, mindful behavior, or thoughtful attention to shared responsibilities. Sarah and Mark felt a quiet satisfaction, seeing that their guidance had been absorbed and that Liam's questions had evolved into insights, signaling a growing maturity and awareness of his role in the family. The scene closed with the three of them sitting together, reviewing the papers once more, discussing future plans, and reinforcing the sense that their home was not just a building, but a living embodiment of their shared efforts, care, and enduring commitment to each other and the life they had built together. The next morning, Mark and Sarah decided to take Liam to the town hall to show him where the house records were kept, turning the theoretical discussion into a tangible experience that reinforced the lessons from yesterday. Liam's eyes lit up as they walked through the historic building, noticing the high ceilings, polished floors, and organized rows of files, each representing a story, a family, and the legal backbone of the community's homes. Mark led him to the clerk's desk and explained how public records ensured transparency, security, and proper documentation for every property, demonstrating how the house title they had discussed was part of a larger system that protected families. Liam asked insightful questions about how people could make changes to their records, what processes were involved in transferring ownership, and why accuracy mattered so much, and Mark patiently explained each step, using simple examples of past transactions that highlighted diligence, responsibility, and attention to detail. Sarah added context about the role of trust and verification, showing how families could avoid conflicts and misunderstandings by keeping careful records and respecting legal protocols, emphasizing the connection between documentation and family harmony. As they explored the building, Liam imagined scenarios where he and his parents would handle repairs, renovations, or even emergencies, and Mark encouraged him to think critically about planning, prioritization, and communication, turning everyday responsibilities into lessons in foresight and accountability. They then visited the room where historical maps and blueprints were displayed, allowing Liam to trace the development of their neighborhood over decades, connecting past events to the present and giving him a deeper appreciation of how long-term planning, cooperation, and consistency had shaped their current home. Sarah pointed out landmarks and shared stories of previous homeowners, highlighting acts of kindness, community support, and thoughtful decision-making that contributed to a thriving environment, reinforcing the importance of values alongside technical knowledge. Liam listened intently, asking how families balanced personal needs with communal expectations, and Mark used these questions to teach principles of negotiation, compromise, and ethical consideration, showing that responsible ownership extended beyond walls and roofs to include relationships, social awareness, and moral integrity. They concluded the visit by reviewing some sample forms and practice entries, allowing Liam to fill in details under guidance, turning theory into applied understanding and giving him a sense of empowerment and participation in the family's affairs. On the way home, Liam enthusiastically recounted what he had learned, describing the purpose of each document, the process for updates, and the significance of accuracy and honesty, demonstrating that the previous day's conversation had taken root and expanded into practical comprehension. Mark and Sarah exchanged approving smiles, realizing that their son was beginning to internalize the intertwining of family responsibility, legal knowledge, and personal initiative. The afternoon ended with the family at home, sitting together at the kitchen table, reflecting on the experience, and discussing future plans for maintaining the house, reinforcing that property ownership was not just a legal matter, but a continuous practice of care, organization, and collaborative effort that nurtured trust, security, and the shared sense of belonging that defined their family life. That evening, Mark and Sarah gathered in the living room with Liam to continue their discussion about responsibility, ownership, and the practical aspects of managing a household, turning abstract concepts into interactive lessons that engaged his curiosity and analytical thinking. Mark began by asking Liam to imagine scenarios in which unexpected challenges arose, such as repairs, budgeting, or scheduling conflicts, prompting him to think critically about solutions and priorities, while Sarah provided context by describing how families plan for contingencies, divide tasks, and communicate effectively to prevent misunderstandings. Liam, with his youthful enthusiasm and growing comprehension, offered creative suggestions, demonstrating that he was beginning to internalize principles of organization, foresight, and cooperative problem-solving, and Mark encouraged him to evaluate the feasibility, advantages, and potential risks of each idea. They explored topics like tracking expenses, coordinating maintenance schedules, and documenting important decisions, showing Liam that attention to detail, accuracy, and methodical record-keeping were crucial skills for long-term stability, security, and accountability, both for the family and the property. Sarah shared examples from their own experiences, illustrating how small, consistent efforts built trust, reduced stress, and preserved the value of their home, emphasizing that ownership was more than legal documentation. It was a continual practice of care, communication, and mutual respect that reinforced the family's cohesion. Liam asked thoughtful questions about legal terms, contracts, and the responsibilities associated with property, and Mark and Sarah explained each concept in age-appropriate language, using analogies that linked everyday choices to the broader consequences of planning and diligence, showing that responsible decision-making extended beyond immediate outcomes to influence relationships, financial health, and community reputation. As the conversation progressed, Liam began to make connections between theory and practice, outlining simple systems for organizing household chores, recording expenses, and noting upcoming projects, and Mark guided him in refining these systems to balance practicality with accuracy, encouraging independent thinking while providing supportive guidance. Sarah highlighted the importance of communication, transparency, and ethical behavior, showing that trustworthiness and consistency were integral to both family dynamics and legal obligations, and Liam absorbed these lessons eagerly, recognizing that responsibility involved a combination of knowledge, planning, and interpersonal skills. By the end of the evening, the family had collaboratively created a visual chart of tasks, schedules, and goals, demonstrating Liam's growing ability to apply abstract concepts to concrete plans, and Mark and Sarah observed with pride that their son was developing the insight, judgment, and sense of accountability necessary to navigate both domestic and broader societal responsibilities, reinforcing the intertwining of education, ethics, and practical life skills in their shared family experience. The following morning, the sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the living room where Mark, Sarah, and Liam were gathered around the table reviewing the notes and plans they had created together the night before, giving a sense of accomplishment and continuity as they prepared for the practical application of their discussions. Mark began by summarizing the key points they had explored regarding household management, ownership responsibilities, and communication strategies, emphasizing the connection between thoughtful planning and successful implementation, while Sarah highlighted the importance of reviewing progress regularly to identify areas for improvement and celebrate achievements, reinforcing a mindset of continuous learning and engagement. Liam, full of curiosity and energy, contributed by pointing out which systems he thought would be easiest to follow, offering suggestions for streamlining tasks, and asking questions about potential challenges, demonstrating his developing ability to anticipate consequences and weigh options carefully, while Mark and Sarah validated his input and provided guidance on balancing creativity with practicality. Together, they simulated scenarios such as unexpected repairs, scheduling conflicts, and budget adjustments, allowing Liam to practice problem-solving in a safe, supportive environment, and through these exercises, he began to grasp the dynamic nature of managing responsibilities, understanding that flexibility, foresight, and accountability were all interconnected in maintaining household stability. Sarah illustrated examples of past experiences in which small decisions had long-term effects on family harmony and property upkeep, showing Liam that consistent effort, attention to detail, and clear communication contributed to a foundation of trust and reliability, which in turn strengthened relationships and ensured that obligations were met. Mark introduced simple methods for documenting tasks, tracking progress, and communicating updates, demonstrating that organization and transparency were essential components of responsible management, while Sarah reinforced the ethical dimension, explaining that honesty, fairness, and consideration for others were integral to sustaining both family and legal commitments. As the session progressed, Liam created a chart detailing chores, schedules, and goals, showing his growing competence in translating abstract ideas into concrete, actionable plans, and Mark and Sarah offered feedback to fine-tune the systems, reinforcing positive habits and critical thinking. By mid-afternoon, the family engaged in a collaborative review, reflecting on what they had learned, celebrating Liam's insights, and discussing how these principles could be applied consistently to ensure long-term stability and harmony, all while fostering a sense of ownership, responsibility, and pride in their shared environment. The day ended with a feeling of accomplishment and anticipation, as Liam expressed excitement about taking an active role in household management, demonstrating that the combined efforts of education, guidance, and practical application had successfully nurtured his understanding of responsibility, problem-solving, and ethical awareness, leaving Mark and Sarah confident that their son was now equipped with the foundational skills necessary to navigate both immediate and future challenges within the family and beyond, solidifying the lessons of accountability, communication, and thoughtful planning in a meaningful, memorable, and highly engaging experience.